Hello, this is Tea and Tequila, or Rocky and Sarah, here to give you our latest book talk. We are both coaches, and Rocky's a retreat leader, and I'm an editor, and we're here to bring bookish goodness to the world. And we're today doing something different. We're not going to give writing tips. We're mixing up by reviewing Everything, which is a beautiful book. It even has illustrations, which I'm going to flip through until I find one. Rocky, have you found one? Someone?
Well, one is like this.
There you go. Thank you, my friend.
It's the way she doesn't really even have chapter numbers or anything in this book. And that's one reason why I was really excited that we chose this one, because it was put it down perfect.
It's like elementary school.
I know. I was really excited when Sarah suggested we do a book talk on this, because I feel like it's a great example of how you can be really unique in your writing style and method. Yeah, see, so in this young adult novel, there are illustrations, there's text that sort of wraps around, there aren't chapter numbers, there's these illustrations just sort of thrown in between text. Lots of fun things. So I'm really excited.
Text message exchanges. Pads of papers for prescriptions, book reviews that are a sentence long. It's a really fun book.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, Sarah, you read the book before I did. I think you finished it a few days before I did. Mm-hmm. What were some of your initial thoughts?
Okay, well, I'll begin, though, how we found out about this book, or at least how I did. We went to a book talk with Sabat, I think is how your name is, Renee, on the Wrath in the Dawn, I think is the name of hers, and also the Ember series. And they were discussing how much they loved this book. And I was like, I already got this book. I think I saw it with a booktuber or on Pinterest or something. And I bought it like, okay, I just need to be up to date with the latest books. And I think it was on sale on Amazon or something. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read this now. We heard that. They're like, it has a great romance. It has diversity in it, which I really liked about the book. The guy's really cute. You have to read it. So I'm like, okay. And I loved it. I thought it was fun. There's issues I have with the book, but overall, I thought it was really creative with her book reviews. I thought that was fun. My favorite book is The Little Prince, which plays a major role in the book, so that made me super happy. I'd like to, again, as I mentioned, diversity. It's nice to see a character who is African-American, I believe is what she was. And it was really just like the creativity with the format, the style. But I felt like it stretched realism. I don't know. Are we doing spoilers? I don't want to do spoilers, I think. But there's some things that happen. I'm like, would a teen be able to do certain things? Like she has a credit card that has a ridiculous limit. This is not a spoiler. And you're like, would you really give your teenager a credit card with a limit of like it was like over $1,000. I don't think you would give. My parents gave me $200 as we were discussing. It was like very limited. It wasn't until I went to college, and it's about a girl. So I give you the plot. Who's very sick. She believes she cannot leave the house because her immune system is she's allergic to everything, and her mom is her caretaker, and she has like also a woman nurse who comes in to help her. She sees the boy next door, and they develop a relationship through texting and like across the window, and it's just a fun read. And that's my viewpoint. But there are points where I felt like reality was seriously stretched throughout this book. And I guess the twist from the first page, I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. So there's like a twist to the book. I'm like, oh, I saw it coming a mile away. But that's because I guess twists for everything my husband says, so it's a problem. How about you, Rocky?
A gift and a curse. So I had no idea really what the book was about. I only bought it because we went to that book talk and the authors thought so highly of it. So I picked it up, and then I got home, I read the description, I'm like, oh, okay. But then I started looking through, like I sort of did a quick scan, and I saw all those unique features where there were just random pictures places, and there was things like, okay, kissing primer, checklist.
I love that part. So cute.
It was so adorable. So I also loved, so before going into it, I knew that it was going to have those unique elements. When I got into it, what I loved it is it was such a conversational style, and the language it really felt like you were just getting a glimpse into this girl's head and her isolation and what she fixated on to feel less isolated. And then how when going through an actual relationship, friendship, whatever that was developing between them, how her focus shifted. And then she was dissatisfied with that isolation where she was content with it before. And I liked that as a theme because I feel like we all reach a time in our lives when we find that we are dissatisfied with something within it, and then we have to figure out, well, what does that mean, or where do I go from here? And so I really liked the format. I really love unconventional styles when it comes to writing in the chapters and all of that. I loved Nicola Yoon's writing style, like just her prose. I like that. Mm-hmm. And then I really enjoyed the characters. I really liked the main characters of the story, and I liked how they interacted. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought it was sort of a unique tale. And then, of course, like Sarah, I felt like realism was stretched. And there was also points where I really wanted in the dialogue there to be more. Like I really loved a lot of the text things and the email messages. Like that was so perfect and spot on. And then sometimes I felt like when they were actually physically together, it's lost that same spark, even though it was still really good. I just wanted more. But yes, it was so good, so good. I enjoyed it. I read it really quickly. And so that's another thing. If you're interested in a fast read, it's a super fast read.
It is, especially since so much of the pages are relatively a lot of white space on it. Mm-hmm. Like there might be just one line on a page. Mm-hmm. So it's a really fast read, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I just don't expect it to go in with a huge amount of realism would be my issue. Is like there are points where I'm like, really? Would this really happen? I feel like the adults were less developed as another issue. I loved the kids. I felt like they were good, but the issues with the characterization of her mother, I felt like she could have gone deeper with that, as well as her caretaker. There were some, but no book's perfect. And I really liked it, don't get me wrong, but I wish she went a little less. I felt like, especially the caretaker, I felt was a bit of a cartoon or cut out a bit. Like, she didn't have depth. It was just this one thing. It seemed like almost the stereotype of what I imagine that type of person would be, and I've seen in other books, so I felt like she didn't stretch herself there. And the mother, I think it could have been a little deeper. I didn't understand all her motives with everything, even with some of the background. I still didn't think there had to be other motivations there that I didn't completely understand. But the teens were developed really well, and I really liked their romance, and I thought it was quirky and fun and cute. I think they were clever, too. Like, it wasn't... Sometimes teens are portrayed as stupid or not intelligent. They're clearly intelligent. She loves reading, which I like, and she has her communities. I like to see how she does connect with the world being isolated in a house and how the romance develops. So that was pretty cool. Did you like the end?
Yes. The end, yes. I love the end. So one of my favorite things in books, in stories, in essays, in all writing is where you're presented with something early on and then it comes for full circle in the end. And that's something that was very satisfying to me for the end of this book. The reference that's made in the very end. Another thing I really want to talk about, because you started talking about how young adults or teens are portrayed. And that's something that I want to speak on, and around characterization and depth of character. So yes, the characters in this book had, like, the main characters, the teens, had depth, and they also had that quirkiness and that intelligence. Even when Ollie, at first, you're not sure if that's going to be him, he thinks very deeply about the world around him. And that's something I feel like when people judge the young adult genre, a lot of times they judge it as a shallow genre. But when you really go deep into the genre and read a lot of books within it, of course there's going to be those tales where it's very shallow or it's very skim the surface, right? But a lot of books go really deep into what teenagers are actually thinking about. And teenagers, aren't just thinking about, their date on a Friday night, where that can and is an issue and a thing that does come up. But they're also thinking about who am I? Where am I going with my life? And it's also a time of firsts for many. So first love, first time having sex, first kiss, like all of these things. And so when you look at the young adult genre, you're looking at a time where people are really emerging into their adulthood and experiencing things for the first time. And we shouldn't dishonor that, and we shouldn't dishonor the importance of that. That's such an important time in a person's life. So when you're looking at the young adult genre, I feel like actually, because things are first, some things can feel almost exaggerated, but it's because it feels so fresh and new to the main character or the characters involved, and that you can actually use that intensity with any genre. And so you can take it almost as a model of, how two people can interact when they're nervous or they're shy, or how two people can interact when they feel that first spark of infatuation, or when they're faced with a really hard question or a really hard issue that they've never had to face before. So I like the young adult genre for, one, people who love the young adult genre, just period. But for other people who are writing in other genres, I feel like it's a really great place to explore not only how emotion and how big questions are tackled, but also how teenagers are actually portrayed in our thinking. So sometimes I'll read an adult book and they'll talk about teenagers. I'm like, really? That's what you think, So I really would like to anybody listening to, one, go and figure out, find a style or a kind of book in the young adult genre that appeals to you and try it out. But also look at how the teenagers are interacting and what they're thinking about. And then also with your own books, because I know we have readers and writers that watch this. If you're writing, make sure you really develop your characters. Make sure you really go into the quirkiness of who they are. So little mannerisms tell a lot about a character, as well as think about their motives. So Sarah, you're talking about how you weren't as convinced of her motives. You wanted more there. So I feel like the other piece I want to say, like moving on from that and going specifically to Nicola Yoon's book, is when you're playing with writing, or if you find a book that is unconventionally structured, comment, because I love to read those books.
Yes.
So comment those, let us know which they are. But for writing, what I would play with is try to be creative in how you format or structure a part of your writing, whether it's a dialogue and you want to break it up as sort of text, or if it's just a person's inner dialogue and they're going back and forth. However it is, like, look at how she styles things and see if you can play off of it just to explore and experiment. We were talking about that in another show, the importance of experimenting. So
important.
This is a great launch pad for experimenting for your own writing.
Also, people aren't a chicklet at all. I hate that term, but I'm just going to use it because for simplicity's sake. Meg Cabot's The Boy Is Back, which is part of her Boy Next Door series, but years later she published it, is in text messages and other kind of modern media. So if you're in more the adult genre and you like women's fiction, again, the term bothers me. you can check that out. Or her earlier books in the series had like email exchanges. Like the epistolary is coming back, which was like more Jane Austen's time period that was big. And now it's coming back with text messages and emails. So think about that, because teens, and I do myself, text a lot. And that is also a humongous form of communication. So also think about like, how does modern technology affect your characters? Mm-hmm. And how, like, especially with how much there's less privacy, how does that influence your characters in your book, adult or teen? Just really also think about that as a way of developing characters, because people text in different ways. My people laugh at me because I used to write essays in grad school where I wrote a lot of what's the word? It was like can't. So I would make things shorter, and then I write cannot in text messages. They're like, that's so weird and backwards. You're supposed to do vice versa. So it's crazy. Like, people have different texting styles, and that can tell you so much about a character. Do they use a lot of emojis? Do they do a lot of, like, abbreviations? Do they do contractions? That's the word I was looking for. Like, what is it that the characters do? And that can tell you so much about people's communication style. Are they one-word people, which is like mean people get annoyed that I keep it as brief as possible? Or are they novelists, where some people tell you their life story through text? That's like possibilities. Yes. Or Snapchat or Facebook. I just think technology, which I think she does well here with her online book reviews, mm-hmm. and their IMs, which was weird. I'm like, is IM still around? I don't know. I'm out of the loop. I'm like, maybe she couldn't do Facebook Messenger because of copyright. But yeah, I just think that really think about technology too can help you think of stylistic things that people do in different ways of telling it. Or even like her book reviews, like essays, if you're doing YA. There's just so many different mediums people communicate in beyond dialogue, especially in modern world. Most of it, people don't get on the phone anymore, and I don't get it. But there's so much you can do now because it's all written communication.
Yes, absolutely. Explore technology in your book. And then for me, like, there's stories that I'm writing where I don't want modern technology a part of it. And that was one of the motivations for me shifting back decades to place my story. So one is place your story where it belongs. If your story belongs with modern technology, then you have to honor the technology that's available to you. Nobody's going to pay phones, people.
They exist. Have they taken them all out of schools? I know Britain were thinking about removing them.
I know. I have seen one in Maryland. Whoa. One. And it's next to like a McDonald's. Riverdale. So yes. So look at the technology of your time and of your book, and then see what's explored and how people are being expressed and how people communicate, just like Sarah said, because that just adds to the realism of your story and adds that layer of depth and setting that's really important.
Any last thoughts, Rocky, about the book you want to share?
I really enjoyed it. I am so glad that we went to the book chat in DC and got the recommendation and read it, and I loved the unconventional nature of how it was set up, and I really loved the story and the characters. And so I think that it's great to also this I believe is as a standalone. And sometimes, I get really into series, so it was so nice to take a breath of fresh air and just read a book and have it stand alone and have it be whole and complete. So I enjoyed it. I think it's a great place for people to read and then to go into their own experimentation and exploration for their own story. And so I think that even if you don't read the whole book, skim through, check out some of the chapters, and then play with your own writing.
I agree. Also, what was I going to say? We should do an episode on trilogies versus duologies versus standalone or in series, because I have thoughts, and they're not all positive. So everyone, spoiler alert, trilogies, I have some rants about the industry right now. There's a place, but again, another one. Also, I will have to say, not to be superficial, but this cover is beautiful. It is one of the most beautiful covers I've ever seen on a book, so it's worth getting the hardback because it just even feels good.
Yeah.
I mean, the book is wonderful, all that, but I just had to say the art. Her husband did the art in it, which I thought was so cute. I don't know if he did the cover art, but the art in there was a husband-wife team, which I thought was really nice that a couple came together for this book.
Yeah, I'm a huge book cover lover. Huge. It's ridiculous. Like, I'll buy the paperback and the hardback and everything if I like the individual covers. I'm just ridiculous. I am the best fan to have of a book because I'll buy all the editions. But one thing that I noticed, and this is another thing, especially for you guys that are going to self-publish books, but I'm going to try to put this close. I just realized, because you made me, I was feeling it, and I realized the textures. There are, like, it just looks like, looking at it just looks like flowers and butterflies, right? But if you look really closely, there are airplanes, there are fish, there are all these little pieces.
Yeah. Like, there's a paper airplane up here.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty fabulous.
Just attention to detail. So covers require phenomenal attention to detail, as does the writing itself. So remember, when you're writing a book, when you're publishing a book, you're creating a whole experience with that book. So don't neglect any piece of it.
It all matters.
It all matters.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up. Hopefully we'll see you all next week. And thanks for watching our video. Bye.